Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. It is a Wednesday edition of the show and a very exciting Wednesday because we are recapping week 2 of Bucs OTAs. I'm Matt Matera. Joined with me is Scott Reynolds, the face that runs the place. And Scott, I think this is going to be the best podcast yet, because we're going to talk about everything that we saw from practice today, from Devin White to KJ Britt, Shaq Barrett, Scotty Miller, and of course, Kyle Trask and Blaine Gabbert, who you see on the screen right here and there. So Scott, in this greatest episode of all time, how are you doing? How are you feeling? What's your vibe? What's your mood? Tell me.
Good. I mean, not as good as Blaine Gabbert, but pretty good, right? I mean, it's a good Monday. It's a good Wednesday. It kind of feels like a Monday. It's just been like busy, right? Like Mondays are always a busy day for me, but Wednesday, boy, this is a busy day as well. With as literally getting back minutes ago from Bucs OTA, and we heard from some very interesting characters over there. One of them's name is Todd Bowles, head coach, Devin White, and we got a double Shaq attack today, right? From Shaq Barrett and Shaq Mason at the podium. So a lot of cool ground to cover. We just put up the insider report too. I'm going to put that in the chat. The Bucs OTA insider is up, and that's on pewterreport.com. So check that out. We've had a ton of traffic. Thanks to you, Pewter people. We appreciate that over the last couple of days, consuming all of the great content on pewterreport.com, whether it's the Gronkowski stories, whether it's Josh Capo's new grinding the tape with an interesting look at Logan Ryan from a film standpoint. And we're going to talk about Logan Ryan on this podcast as well, because we kept an eye on him during today's OTA, like we said we would, to find out where he's playing. And so this very well could be, and actually should be, the best Pewter Report podcast we've ever done.
Without question, because I think another thing too is, sure, OTAs, you're not getting the full pads, you're not getting the full experience. Not every single player was there. We'll talk about some of the players that were missing again from week 2. Some have been there when the media hasn't been available, and others have just not flat out been there at all. Again, for different reasons, they don't have to be there. This is voluntary, so it's not a knock on them. Yeah. But from the players that were there, the stars were out in droves.
Yes.
And Todd Bowles was happy once again that there was a great veteran turnout. Of course, the rookies are going to be there. But because we got Devin White back today, as you see on the screen here, Devin White and Shaq Barrett, who I was going to get to next, 2 huge presences on the defensive side of the ball. Devin White obviously being a leader there, especially with Lavonte David not at practice at the moment, as he's still recovering from his injury that he suffered towards the end of last season. And obviously Shaq Barrett too. I mean, he was already a leader on this team. He's even going to take a more heightened role with JPP not there, because it's almost like, it's funny too, because outside linebacker and tight end, they play pretty much opposite each other on offense and defense. You're looking at 2 positions, and we talked a lot about tight ends, so we don't really have to get too much into that. But at outside linebacker, we're talking about a position where it's Shaq Barrett, who's at the cream of the crop, one of the top outside linebackers in the game, and then a lot of young, inexperienced guys. And Anthony Nelson has been there for a little bit, so but you know, he's a number 3 outside linebacker. That's his role. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, we have a lot of confidence in him, potentially a Pro Bowl player this year.
Maybe.
See that article on pewterreport.com. But again, second-year player, still a lot of wisdom for him to gain and bring in. And the 4th outside linebacker as well is another position or another spot on the depth chart on this team that we don't necessarily know about yet. So it's pretty much Shaq Barrett and then everyone else in a sense. But it was great to see Devin White and Shaq Barrett both back out there today in front of us.
No doubt. And I think for the leadership point that you mentioned, it's big, right? Because KJ Britt is playing that. He's playing both the middle linebacker and what they call the Mo backer. They have the Mike and the Mo in Todd Bowles' scheme. The Mike backer is Devin White. The Mo backer, which is the weak side linebacker in their 2 linebacker scheme, is Lavonte David. And so obviously they're going to cross-train KJ Britt to play both roles, since he'll be the super sub coming off the bench in case something happens to either starting linebacker. But having KJ Britt next to Devin White in practice in these OTAs is invaluable, because Devin White's been there and done that. He's a 3-year starter, right? And so he can pass along some wisdom on the field or on the sidelines to KJ Britt, who's still learning. And Todd Bowles had some very positive things to say about KJ Britt. And listen, I'll say this. We only have 3 pictures today from practice. And the reason why is because it's Cliff Welch's birthday. Cliff Welch is our longtime Pewter Report.
The longest tenured Pewter Report.
That's correct.
Happy birthday, Cliff.
Happy birthday. Happy 39th birthday again. He keeps having this 39th birthday. You see him there. This was taken years ago. Still looks the same. He's still a phenomenal dude, phenomenal photographer for Pewter Report. He got a 30 jersey where I got a 20 jersey a couple years ago from the Buccaneers for celebrating his 30 years of covering the team. He is actually a longer tenured Pewter reporter than even myself. I think this is year 27 for me. This is probably like year 35 for him. So happy birthday to Cliff Welch. And we'll take your 3 pictures and you have a great birthday. But yeah, it was great to see Shaq and Devin White out there today, because again, as you mentioned, Shaq Barrett is going to be imparting that wisdom and knowledge and that leadership to Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. And one thing we wrote about in the Insider that I'll share with you guys, and again, not really giving away any strategy here because this is one OTA. Yeah. At the grand scheme of things could be quite meaningless. But what I did like to see is Joe Tryon-Shoyinka took just about every single rep at the left outside linebacker spot. And he played a lot on the right side last year, where Shaq was on the left, a pretty good deal of that. And if you go back to my complaints about the outside linebacker positions, Shaq Barrett got most of his, not all, but a healthy amount, more than half of his 19.5 sacks back in 2019, his first Pro Bowl season, Matt, on the right side, going one-on-one against left tackles, right? And then when Jason Pierre-Paul came back halfway through the 2019 season, he said, hey, I prefer to rush from the right side. And Shaq Barrett, being a good teammate and, not really the alpha that JPP is, said, okay, fine, dog, I'll play on the left side and you play on the right. And Shaq Barrett proved he can do it, right? He's gotten plenty of sacks and made plays from the left side. But the problem is Shaq at 250 pounds, soaking wet, is going up against 330-pound right tackles and oftentimes a tight end chipping him too, right? Because he's such a premier pass rusher that's going to command some of those attention and double teams. And I just like the fact of Shaq rushing from the right side, one-on-one against a tackle. He's led this team in forced fumbles. I think he had 6 back in 2019. He's really good at the strip sack. And you've got a bigger guy in JTS at 6'5", 265, with a longer arm, longer reach, right, and more athleticism. And I think that he can go up against those maybe less athletic right tackles and have more success there. So I was really pleased today to see, and fingers crossed, I hope it happens more of this year. And they're going to flip sides to give teams different looks. But keep JTS on that left side most of the time. Let him, instead of being a jack of all trades and a master of none, Matt, let him master that left outside linebacker position.
And Scott, this isn't something new, all right? This isn't something that you just picked up on today or last week at OTAs. You've been banging the table for this for almost 2 seasons now, all right? So this isn't just like, oh, this is a common trend. No, you've been talking about this for a long time. Just keep Shaq Barrett on the right side. So that was a great glimmer of what is to come.
It made me happy, Matt. It made me really happy today. I was seeing Blaine Gabbert was always a thrill. But seeing JTS at the left side and Shaq on the right was it was a magical day for me. I'm not going to lie.
And to stick with the outside linebacker, 2 things that I thought was also awesome and should make Bucs fans happy. One of the things with Shaq Barrett, we asked him about the leadership role. I think leadership is going to be a big common theme for the Bucs this year. And you want to see it with every team, and you ask players every year about it. But especially this year with more of a transition type of aspect of it where, and we spoke to Vita Vea about it last week with Logan Hall coming in and Sue leaving. We're talking about an outside linebacker with JPP gone, and now it's just Shaq. Shaq talked about that. He's going to lead the way that he knows how to lead. And he's already been a leader, as we talked about. But he leads by example. And he said, whoever wants to follow him, go ahead and follow him. He will help him out as much as he possibly can. But he had a great line at the end, too, where he essentially was talking about, some guys got to learn how to follow, too. Can't be all leaders and everyone else is going their own way.
Right.
They all got to, the Bucs like to row the boat, row the canoe, whatever you want to call it. He was saying that some of these guys are just going to have to make sure that they listen, that they take lead of what Shaq Barrett is doing. So I thought that was really cool. And on the field itself, too, as you were just talking about with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka going up against right tackles, well, the Bucs have a pretty damn good right tackle with Tristan Wirfs. So we saw a lot of Joe Tryon-Shoyinka against Tristan Wirfs. And of course, they're not in shoulder pads, they're not hitting each other very hard. So a lot of it was just Tristan Wirfs mirroring Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. And Wirfs did a pretty good job against JTS. And JTS is fast, athletic, strong, good first step. So we're talking about a quick guy, and Tristan Wirfs was with him every step of the way. So remember, he's coming off an ankle injury that forced him to miss that playoff game against the LA Rams. Tristan Wirfs had a lot of recovery this offseason. Yeah. As far as movement and quickness-wise, he looks pretty damn good there.
He looks like he's damn good. You're exactly right. Great analysis, Matt. And the thing, too, is just imagine Joe Tryon-Shoyinka going up against Tristan Wirfs every day in training camp, right? And so when it gets time to play the games, it's going to be easier because he's literally going up against the best right tackle in practice every day. So if he can get a sack, an occasional sack on Tristan Wirfs, which is going to happen, right? I mean, it was perfect. It's only going to be easier on Sundays for JTS. And I think that's the good takeaway from that particular battle that started today. And we're going to see a lot more of in the mini camps and training camp and all of that. And again, I'm sure you're going to see JTS on the right side a little bit as well. But I would love for home base for him to be on that left side. Matt, I saw you sneaking a Celsius in there. That's allowed. You can show that can to everybody.
Well, what sparked me to do that as well is Adam Davies' comment here. It says, hey, guys, I'm thirsty. Anyone know what I could drink to quench that first? By the way, I'm on my second Celsius drink today.
Me too.
I don't even necessarily need the energy right now. I just like the flavor of this. I had a sparkling orange pomegranate this morning. I'm rocking the peach vibe now too. So again, just the taste itself is amazing with Celsius energy drinks. And again, Celsius energy drinks, there's the versatility factor to it. Just like we love a versatile safety in the secondary or a versatile wide receiver that can play outside in the slot. That's what you get with Celsius energy drink. Because on the one side, the flavors are fantastic. As you saw, I had the peach vibe. Scott, you had 2 cans there, I believe.
Orange and Fuji apple pear.
Yeah. You were drinking the Fuji apple pear today before practice started. So all the flavors, they're not just good, they're great. And they are as advertised, all right? If you're saying it's orange or watermelon or wild berry or the Arctic vibes, all the vibes here, and the vibes are very high right now on the Pewter Report podcast. But they actually taste like what they're telling you it tastes like, all right? This isn't a sham. This isn't a fugazi, a fugazi, a woozy, it's a wazi. It's a Wolf of Wall Street right there for you. But that's the one side of it, is that they have so many different types of flavors and they all taste fantastic. The other side of it too is obviously they give you the energy, no sugar. They give you the energy that you need, whether it's a work day, a long drive, a workout. It's there for you. And you don't get the downside of the post-energy drink jitters, the crash that comes later with it. We've been drinking Celsius energy drinks for a while now. Haven't had that issue at all. So make sure you go to your local bodega, your local...
What is a bodega, Matt? Is that a New York term? I hear you say it all the time. It is. Or is it a Florida term? I don't know. What's a bodega?
It's a New York term, but you can find other places too. It's just like a convenience store that's close.
Oh, okay.
To you. Like duckweeds. I don't know if you've heard of duckweeds, but like there's one. Okay, it's it's your simple.
I'm learning something new every day here.
You can get your drinks, your snacks, stuff like that. It's like it's certain areas where you just get convenient like little things that you could pick up on. So.
Well, the other place you can get it is Amazon, and you can do the subscribe and save. They'll ship it right to your house, and you can save money by buying them in cases. And the other thing that is that you definitely want to do, aside from getting Celsius on Amazon, is getting the fast protein bars. I'm going to say something, and it's 100% true, and it's not going to make the folks at Celsius and Fast Brands happy. Okay, I'm currently out of the fast protein bars, and they come in 2 delicious flavors. They come in the white chocolate cookies and cream, which tastes like a candy bar, and the other one, which tastes like a candy bar, is the salted peanut caramel crunch. And they taste fantastic. And why I'm harping on the taste is yes, they have all the protein that you want with very little sugar. They're very healthy for you, but it's the taste. Matt, I stopped off today to get some gas on the way to One Buck Place, and they don't carry fast in the bodega, to use your term, that I was at, the convenience store. And so I grabbed a competing bar, and it was supposedly blueberry flavored. And Matt, it tasted like sawdust or cardboard. It tasted like wood chips. It was very dry and flaky, and I got it like all over my shirt. And I was wolfing it down because I was like, all right, I want some protein. You know, I'm waiting on my protein, my fast protein bars to come from Amazon, and it was awful. I'd keep imagining myself, okay, this is supposed to taste like a blueberry. Do I taste the blueberry? I kind of taste the blueberry. I'm going to pretend it's blueberry. Folks, listen, don't make the same mistake. Just get the fast protein bars. Oh, and by the way, you can get them now for $5 off your 12-pack when you buy them. So 2 fantastic flavors. It tastes like candy bars. You get all the protein you need, very little sugar, fast protein bars. Get them on Amazon. Use the 5 fast lane for $5 off. So it's a fantastic time to do it right now before the end of the month. And we encourage you all to do so. So Matt, one of the highlights today was talking to Devin White, right? Because we love Devin White. He is a very good quote machine when it comes to talking with the media. I think we got probably 5 or 6 stories coming out of Devin White's 12-minute press conference today, which is great.
Honestly, Scott, we could probably do the rest of this podcast just on Devin White, and not just what he did on the field, but his post-practice press conference, a lot of P's in there, push and P, and just everything from, why he came to OTAs in the first place, taking on even more of a leadership role, why he hates playing in the cover 2, why he hates the Pro Bowl, why he never wants to play in a leader. There were so many videos, I didn't even have enough time to go and put everything in there. But we got a ton of great information from Devin White. So would you want to? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and as good as Devin White is to talk to, folks, Will Golston is just as good. Will is a fantastic quote. He has been one of my go-to guys in the locker room for 10 years now. I mean, he was great as a rookie. He's been great as a wise old sage veteran with the Super Bowl ring now. And he's going to be our special guest tomorrow at 4:00 on the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. Make sure that you are tuning in tomorrow at 4:00 Eastern. And if you have some questions in the chat, we'll even ask Will. How about that? You throw some super chats especially. We'll ask those questions to Will. And we're going to have him on talking about all things Buccaneers. So this should be a fascinating conversation. So
all right, I think Scott froze again, as he does from time to time. But again, please, this frozen shot right here of Scott, that is hilarious. But as we were just talking about, Will Golston coming on the show tomorrow. Cannot wait. Going to be so much fun. He's one of the longest tenured Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the team. So it's going to be awesome to get to chat with him tomorrow, a little more in depth than just your typical press conference that we got going on with that. So again, 4:00 tomorrow, Will Golston on the show, a special guest. Scott and I will be talking to him for that. And I believe we got Scott back. Scott, I was just wrapping up the podcast I will be having tomorrow with Will Golston. Very excited for that. And we'll get to talk to him about Vita Vea and Logan Hall, and obviously Will's career as well, too. He's had a long career with the Bucs in multiple different phases of it. So it's going to be awesome tomorrow, and I can't wait for it.
Looking forward to it. Let's hear from some Devin White clips now, because he had some fantastic quotes.
Yeah, one of the first things that Devin White was talking about, and he was very honest with himself. A lot of times you see on social media, Devin, he'll hear from the haters, and he wants to, I guess, kind of clap back at them. But he was honest with himself, too, that the biggest thing that he is working on this year is consistency. All right. We've
Yes.
seen the great Devin White, and we've seen when Devin White doesn't even look like we're like, just what is going on here.
Yeah.
He's all about consistency this year with him and Levante David as well.
I mean, you're obviously fast, strong, know the position.
Yeah.
What is it that's going to make you even another level?
I think for myself to tap into another level, like I know what everything feels like. I know all the accolades, and I think just for myself is being consistent, like with my diet, with my training, doing extra, making sure fourth quarter still feel like the second quarter to me. I think like as a young player, you kind of slack off in some of those areas because you're young. You can just go out there and run. Like I think I got to be more consistent on just myself and do what's best for me. And I got to put those things in order to know what's best for me. And that's more so, asking each individual, like my coach, what you think? Where you think I need to play at? This is where I need to be? Or stay there? Like tell myself to stay there. Don't go get Chick-fil-A on Sunday, Monday because I had a good game Sunday. Like I got to be more consistent in those fine-tuned areas. And like you said, just keep getting in the film. And because that's kind of the next step that me and Coach Foote talk about is like that Luke Kuechly step. Like I got way more athleticism than him, but he got way more brains. And brains kind of it play a big factor in the football game.
So where are you at right now in terms of weight?
I thought that was great.
Yeah.
75% of what he was talking about with consistency didn't even have to do with stuff on the field. And he gets to that in a second. I'm going to read off another quote that Devin White had talking about his consistency. But I just love the fact that he's talking about eating right, not just relying on the fact that he's young. Because I'm sure Will Golston will tell you tomorrow, if you want to have longevity in this career, you got to make sure you're always working on your body and your agility and being able to move. And then he talked about wanting to be like Luke Kuechly. Well, Luke Kuechly, great player, all-pro, one of the best linebackers out there when he was playing. Devin White's got the Super Bowl already ahead of him, but still just talking about watching the tape, the knowledge, the learning aspect of it. He talked about in another quote too, that he's a walking book, how he played a lot of man-to-man at LSU, but now playing zone more in the Bucs defense. That's something that, it's taken him a little bit of time to work on. And then on the field as well too, Devin had another quote. He was asked about just how he's always flying around going, 100 miles per hour because he's more of a downhill type of player.
A lot of sacks,
Yeah, and he said, we were just watching the sack tape, and man, just when I'm going 100 miles per hour, you don't even have to be an athletic quarterback or something.
Yep.
They can just sidestep you because you're going so fast and you can't stop your momentum. Just stuff like that. Everything I do, I got to play under control.
Yeah.
I always try to use my speed as just a makeup because I know I'm fast, but now it's got to be more brains than speed. I'm getting better with that, and I'm still learning. So he understands the bull in the china shop mentality that has helped him at times, but it hurt him a lot last year. That's a big thing that Devin White was talking about, that he has to, and we spoke about it too, that he's got to hone in on and change his focus a little bit.
Yeah. And all of this is refreshing because it's stuff that we've written about. It's some of the critiques that the fans have had, right? Whether it's on, here in the chat room, whether it's on social media, et cetera, on our Pewter Report Twitter feed. And he's embracing that. He's acknowledging those mistakes. He knows what he needs to do. He needs to become a more cerebral player. And he's got some good instincts, right? He's got some fantastic athleticism, but he does have to play more under control. And that's something he's become very self-aware about. He's not shying away from it. And also too, I think that the position coach change is going to be good for him because he's the kind of player that is a hype guy. And I think Larry Foote is more of like a hype coach, right? We heard Bruce Arians last year say, the chirpiest defensive coach is Larry Foote, right? He feels like he's still playing and he's talking a bunch of smack to the offense. And that's the type of player that Devin White is. Mike Caldwell is a more calm, cool, collected kind of guy, now the defensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but he was Devin's position coach. And he loves playing for both. And the great thing about playing for multiple coaches is different coaches emphasize different things and give you more tools for your toolbox. And so I think that Larry Foote, and I even asked this of Devin, having played the inside linebacker position as he did in Pittsburgh and also in Arizona, does that help him? And because he's more relatable. And he says, absolutely yes. And I think that
that Larry Foote is going to be able to tell Devin when to hit the gas, when to apply the brake, and really almost be like a driving instructor, right? Because as a Mike linebacker, you're driving the defense, you're driving to the ball, whether it's the quarterback on a blitz, whether it's dropping back and driving on a receiver in coverage, whether you're driving, sideline to sideline, going to get a running back, right, on a running play. Mm-hmm. And I think that Devin understands that going 100 miles per hour all the time, there's going to be some crashes. Crashes aren't good. So when to hit the gas, when to hit the brake, when to play under control. And I really think that Larry Foote is going to jibe more with Devin White because they've got a similar personality. And I think we're going to see the best of Devin White this year. I really do.
And here's Devin White talking about his new inside linebackers coach, Larry Foote, and co-defensive coordinator.
Coach, for giving you that you've kind of latched onto right off the bat.
So far, like you said, they're both unique in their own ways, the different coaches, and I love both of them. Obviously Coach Kyle Will more because he's been with me longer. But Coach Foote, he just more so like technician this, technician that, like talking route concepts, where to be. So he more so like been like just this to this point been so much focused on the ball, getting picks, getting turnovers. He'll arsenal at that. Like even when he wasn't coaching me, he always say, "Go watch me. When I played here, I had this." So he's just been drilling it, and I've been liking it. Just coming from my background, just having just a lot of man-to-man chasing running backs type of background. All the zone stuff, the route concepts, everything is still like a walking book. Like I'm reading and I'm learning as I go. So I think he's doing a tremendous job, and I'm not nobody that can't get enough tools in my toolbox. Like I still want to learn, and I still want to play fast and at a high level. So I'm thankful for everything he's giving me right now.
Does it really help you talk that language with you?
Yeah, I think it always helped. Like it's like you talking to another player. Just a smarter player, because obviously he's 10 times smarter than me. But he know the playbook too, because he's the one putting it in. They going over, and he know what needs to be done. So I think it helps a lot.
10 times smarter than him. 10 times Larry Foote has the knowledge of Devin White.
It's because of the experience, right? Experience is the greatest teacher. And so I think what he's saying is Larry White played, more than a decade in this league. Larry Foote has been in this defense going back to the Arizona Cardinals longer than Devin White's been in it, because this is Devin's 4th year. So listen, Devin White wants to be better. He wants to be great. I do not think he is satisfied at all. And this was a concern of mine a little bit. Him getting the Pro Bowl nod last year that we all kind of at Pewter Report was like, don't know if it was quite a Pro Bowl season for Devin. But sometimes when you get that recognition, Matt, it can be a thing where I think the positive of the Pro Bowl berth for him, his first Pro Bowl berth, is not necessarily the recognition and the ego and the acknowledgement of, oh, I've arrived, I'm a Pro Bowler. I think for him, it's, I want to stay at this level. Like I want to be amongst my peers. Don't necessarily want to play in the game, right?
Yeah.
But I want to have that reputation. I think he kind of embraces it more of like, okay, I'm supposedly at this level. I got to stay at this level, but I'm not just satisfied. I want to get to the next level.
Yeah, Devin spoke about that. It was a question that you actually asked Scott, and you essentially asked him, about making his first Pro Bowl and what it meant to be around just other great players, and if that's a motivating factor. As you just talked about, the fact that you thought it got to his head a little bit, and he said, and quote, "When you're a good player, you want to be mentioned with the best. When you get spoiled by a Super Bowl, you never want to play in a Pro Bowl. I can say that. You want the honors, but you don't want to play in it." I took that from it, and the whole time while we were out there, obviously we had a lot of teammates out there. Vita Vea was there, Ryan Jensen, Ali Marpet, Antoine Winfield Jr. as well too. We just kept saying, damn, we should still be practicing. This is not what we want. But you want to make the best of it, because at the end of the day, it's still an opportunity that we're thankful for. We're thankful because we could have not made the Pro Bowl and not made the Super Bowl. At the end of the day, good players, they get recognized, and good players are on good teams. They all go hand in hand, and we want to be a great team. So obviously, we got to have great players making plays and getting recognized for their play.
Yeah.
He goes on to talk a little bit more about it, but I think you get the point that he's trying to make.
And listen, it was curious that the Buccaneers only had one Pro Bowler during their Super Bowl season, right?
JPP.
Yeah. Yeah. So usually, and just go back to the 2002 Super Bowl Buccaneer team, usually the teams that have a lot of Pro Bowlers are the ones in the Super Bowl because great players make great teams and all that. So it was a little bit of an anomaly that only one Pro Bowler on that 2022 season, and that was JPP, as you mentioned. But I do think that we're going to be seeing now this really become a Pewter Pro Bowl where you're going to be seeing return, appearances by Devin White, Vita Vea, Antoine Winfield, Shaq Barrett, etc. Maybe Shaq Mason gets in there. Tristan Wirfs, of course, will continue to be a Pro Bowler. So Mike Evans, Chris Godwin when he's healthy, etc. So this team is stacked with those players, and I think Devin White has arrived in that sense, and I think he wants to make sure he stays there. Appreciate the hello from Emily. Appreciate it.
Hi, Emily.
Devin White had a good pass breakup today on a play that was a pass play to Rachaad White.
That he did. It was over the middle. Devin White versus Rachaad White. Very good coverage by Devin. It wasn't a bad thrown ball or anything like that. Just tried to fit it into a tight window. And I think overall, we'll talk about the quarterbacks a little bit later, but there were a lot of passes thrown that were into tight windows that were completed.
Yeah.
But Devin White was right there, right in the nick of time, able to make the stop, get his hand up, and knock down the pass before it got to Rachaad White. And it was funny, too, because at the beginning of practice, obviously, it was cool to see Devin White. He's been there for a couple of practices, but we were seeing him for the first time in 2022. And one of the things that you pointed out right away, Scott, was that Devin White looks more agile. He looks even a little bit quicker than he already has been. Maybe that's just comes with the experience. You can start anticipating plays quicker than usual. And we saw that with the pass breakup on Rachaad White.
Certainly looked better than Larry White today, for sure. I think I said Larry. I meant to say Larry Foote or Devin White, and it came out Larry White. So, but yeah, that's just to keep everybody on their toes, as Richie said. Appreciate Richie understanding where I'm coming from with that. But yeah, and the thing is it's kind of crazy, right? Because Devin White said that he's around 235. Last year, he was about 239. And you think, okay, that's only 4 pounds. That's not that big of a deal. But think about it. These guys are human beings just like you and I, Matt. I've always said the only difference between an NFL football player and you and I is 3 things. Number 1, they make a hell of a lot more money than you and I do. Number 2, they're way better athletes than you and I are. Number 3, they're on TV every week, and we're not. So, we kind of are on the Pewter
at WFLA.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But otherwise, they go through financial woes. They've got family members who get sick. They go through divorces. They have the birth of children, right? All sorts of things, right? They're just like you and I. So think about it like this. When you drop 4 pounds, right, when you're on a diet or something, you feel a little bit better. You feel a little faster or whatever. For these professional athletes, especially for a guy like Devin White that has a very low body fat to begin with, those 4 pounds that you do shed make a difference. And it can also lead to better stamina, better conditioning. So I think that I was right in saying that Devin looked a little thinner today, a little bit faster, and he's a fast dude to begin with. So again, kudos to him for saying all the right things. I think it was very sincere, his comments, his candidness today. What else did Devin White have to say today, Matt?
He was very sincere about 2 other things, too. One, I'll play this video first. One was just why he's here in the first place, because it's OTAs, it's involuntary. We saw other players.
Well, it's voluntary. It's not involuntary.
Yeah. Sorry. It is a practice that is voluntary.
Correct.
And so he was asked why he wanted to show up. And part of it is because he's a leader on this team, and Levante David is injured right now and can't be there. So he's like, well, one of us has to be there to hold it down. So he wants to do that. Also, while Todd Bowles is still here, moving from defensive coordinator to head coach, they're implementing new things on the defense. And Devin White, again, wanting to be consistent, wanting to just put all of his priorities in order the right way. One of those things is how you learn about the game. And we just talked about how he wants to be a walking, talking book. He wanted to learn this new defense, not on Zoom, not over the phone or on the computer. He wanted to actually experience the different changes going on. So he spoke about why he is here for OTAs.
Yeah, it's not my first day, but I feel like it's great for me to be here because we putting in new defenses. Like, you know, we trying to add new, and I don't want to just learn it on Zoom, and then I want to actually come in and go over at full speed and kind of get the feel of it down. You know, being able to go fast. Obviously, I gotta, you know, hold it down for Levante because, you know, I know he doing his thing, what he got to do. So one of us got to be here kind of running the show. And, you know, I took it upon myself. So I just want to keep getting better.
And as much as Devin White is a leader, he's going to put it on other people to be leaders as well, too. JPP is in here and Dominican Sue is in here. So who's step up in that role? Devin White spoke about that as well.
I mean, you know, you're obviously fast, strong, know the position.
Yeah.
What is it that's going to make you even another level?
I think for myself to tap into another level, like I know what everything feels like. I know all the accolades, and I think just for myself is being consistent, like with my diet, with my training, you know, doing extra, making sure fourth quarter still feel like the second quarter to me. I think like as a young player, you kind of slack off in some of those areas because you're young. You can just go out there and run. Like
we heard Devin already talk about that, the consistency.
Yeah.
But one of the last things that I really thought was awesome that Devin White was talking about is, again, because Levante David isn't there, KJ Britt stepped into a role as, you know, a starting, and I'm putting this in quotations for anyone that's listening on the audio version of this, but starting linebacker with
air
Levante
quotes.
David, right? Yeah, air quotes. And he was extremely complimentary of KJ Britt, probably more than anyone ever has been of KJ Britt. And that's not a diss to him.
Correct.
Devin White pretty much said he wants to play with Levante David for as long as Levante wants to keep playing in the NFL. But unfortunately, when that day arrives, when Levante isn't playing in the NFL anymore, he's more than comfortable with KJ Britt coming in and, you know, being another starting linebacker next to him.
This way, as he.
I mean, he more so helping me right now. He's been here, you know, all the phase 1, phase 2, getting the install. So he was a little step ahead of me. But, man, he's a great player. You know, he's somebody I can see myself playing by for a long time. You know, obviously, I want to play with Levante a little more time. But, you know, just, you know, everybody had a day. But I think if me or Levante go down, I think he's a great guy to step in. You know, he's took ownership of being here and learning and just getting his feet down and just showing the coaches that if something ever happened, I'm able to take over. So I really appreciate that from him. I tell him every day. And I mean, we just had a great practice out there together. We flow together because he liked to talk, I like to talk. Like, we basically the same people. So, you know, I'm way faster, though. That's not to get that. But, nah, it's fun playing with KJ.
Devin, if there's another level for
Yeah, you still get a little bit of that fun cockiness, Devin White saying that he's way faster than KJ Britt. But nonetheless, glowing review of KJ Britt.
It's going to be fascinating to see how Britt does in training camp, especially when the Pats come on, and then also in the preseason games. Like that's really going to be key to, because is he going to be nothing more than that third linebacker, the first guy off the bench like Kevin Minter was, or is he going to be a potential long-term replacement for Levante David?
Yeah.
And if you can get that in the 5th round, I mean, that's a steal for Jason Light. Now, I don't anticipate KJ Britt being the level of player that Levante David is, right? And maybe it's a situation where Britt becomes an okay starter. We're getting ahead of ourselves here, but maybe he's an okay starter that maybe down the road you try to upgrade and replace, right? That's one thing Mike Tomlin told Rondé Barber. I mean, even when Rondé Barber was making Pro Bowls, it's like, hey, we're trying to replace you, you know? Right? It's like, what? Like, yeah, we're trying to replace you. I mean, like, you're 5'10", 180 pounds. You know, you do get some picks. You're a pretty good cover guy. You make a lot of tackles, but don't think we're not trying to replace you. And Rondé Barber just had that mentality of every year he had to be better than the previous year because he was going to get replaced. And honestly, that's the role of personnel and the general manager and the scouting departments is upgrades, right? All across the board. And DeMar Dotson was a very good right tackle for many years. Tristan Wirfs is already better in year 2, entering year 3, right? So that's the biggest thing is trying to get a better player. There is going to be a drop off from Levante David to KJ Britt when that eventually happens, and we'll see if Britt can handle it. But when I was probing some of my sources at the Advent Health Training Center, $1 Place, last week, I I was saying, hey, who's looking good? We only got to watch one practice, right? We get one practice a week. We get to watch. That was last Tuesday, and then we got today's. So this is the 5th OTA practice. We've only seen 2, and one of the first names that I got was Britt, Darden, White, McCollum. Those were the guys that kind of stood out so far. When we say White, we mean Rashad White. Rashad White and Zyon McCollum off to very good starts. And really, we should talk about Zyon McCollum for just a minute here, because with Carlton Davis being out, Zyon McCollum was the starting left cornerback today and took a lion's share of the snaps.
Yeah, Scott, I want to talk about Zyon McCollum and Rashad White in just a moment. You know, these are 2 rookies that the Bucs are hoping are betting on are going to play well in the NFL. And if you're going to bet on any sport, the best place to go to is mybookie.ag. Folks, as you see there, you have the Charles Schwab Championship coming up starting tomorrow, Thursday to Sunday. There was just a great golf tournament, the PGA Championship, one of the 4 majors, an awesome Sunday event where Justin Thomas came back from down 7 strokes to come back and win the PGA Championship. I believe that's his 2nd major title, and he'll be playing in this tournament again this week, the Charles Schwab Championship. And again, that goes from Thursday to Sunday. So that's just one of the many sports that you could bet on, including playoff hockey, Go Bolts. We don't know who they're playing yet in the Eastern Conference Championship, but obviously you can bet on them when they start playing. You got playoff basketball as well, too. And baseball's going on right now. And there's 162 games of the baseball season. And that could feel like a grind at times. But you can put the excitement back in each and every game with MyBookie. There's run lines, money lines, props galore, first inning, no runs. Again, my favorite bet in all of sports. And nobody gives you more opportunities to win than MyBookie. Getting started is simple. You deposit up to $300 and play with $150 instantly. Just use the promo code Pewter to claim a MyBookie deposit bonus. Whether you're a diehard fan or a newcomer to the sport, there's never been a better time to join the MyBookie family. Go ahead and sign up today using promo code Pewter, P-E-W-T-E-R, that's Pewter, to secure your first deposit bonus up to $1,000 with MyBookie. Whatever you put in, they'll meet halfway, all the way up to $1,000. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Again, that's mybookie.ag with the promo code Pewter. So as you were just talking about with Zyon McCollum there, yeah, he got a lot of the reps because Sean Murphy-Bunting was not at Bucs OTAs today, as we mentioned in our OTA report, which, Scott, you did another fantastic job writing that up. So it was on Zyon McCollum, and it was definitely a learning experience for him. Yeah. He got, I don't want to say taken to the woodshed. That wouldn't be fair. No. But he lost the majority of his battles going up against the likes of Scotty Miller, who I thought had a really, really good day. We can talk about him in a little bit. But Scotty Miller kind of took it to him. Rashad Perryman, talking about old dog versus new dog. Rashad Perryman got the better of him. Jaelon Darden, another pretty good practice too. Had a great rep against Jamel Dean as well too. But in terms of Zyon McCollum, this is exactly what we talked about where, you know, he was a later round pick. It's not someone who you're going to plug in right away. He's obviously getting that starting experience in OTAs when not everyone is here, like Sean Murphy-Bunting. I thought it was a pretty good learning experience for him. Obviously, struggled here and there, but that's exactly what Tampa Bay knew what they were getting with him, a guy that they're going to mold and develop. And he's getting all the experience right now, which I think is great. So even if he struggles right now, it's nothing to worry about. We're in May, not even at training camp yet. But he was definitely a topic that was notable out there because of how he got beat.
He's coming from Sam Houston, right? And it's not LSU. It's not Auburn, right? It's not Georgia or Alabama. I mean, he's coming from Sam Houston. There's going to be a learning curve with him. But this guy has all of the physical tools, the agility. He's a smart kid. He wants to be great. And it's just going to take some time with him. And the great thing is Carlton Davis not being there just gets him more reps. These practices don't count, right? They don't affect the Bucs. The Bucs are 0-0. They've yet to win a game. They've yet to lose a game. And it's going to be the same thing at tomorrow's OTA. It's going to be the same thing next week in the OTAs. It's going to be the same thing in the June minicamp. These games, these practices are not games. They don't count. So any mistakes he's making, it's not fatal. It's all learning for him. And it's the same thing for all the rookies, and we're going to be talking tomorrow with Will Golston about one of the other rookies, and that's Logan Hall, the team's first pick, top pick of the second round. And to get his take on Logan Hall and how he's looked, and also playing next to Vita Vea and playing without Ndamukong Suh. So make sure that you're tuned in tomorrow at 4:00 Eastern time when we have Will Golston from the Buccaneers on the program. That should be a fun conversation, always is, with Will. And as we've seen from some of you in the chat, we appreciate the reminder. Hit the subscribe button when you go to Pewter Report TV, and also the like button. The like button helps our algorithm on YouTube, gets us in front of more Pewter people like you, which we love. And we love all the love from you guys. You've gotten us up over 8,400 subscribers. We're on our way to 8,500. And then next up, it's going to be 9,000 before you know it. That's our goal. We want to hit 9,000 before the start of the season. So we got about 500 to go, maybe a little bit more than 500, but help us in that endeavor. It's free. There's no subscription fee. Just hit the button and you're automatically subscribed. If you want to, you can also hit the notifications button. That way, when we go live, which is usually 4:00 Eastern time, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday during the off season, you'll know about it on your phone. And there will not be a Pewter Report podcast on Monday. That's Memorial Day. So we're only going to have 3 podcasts next week: Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And Tuesday, we will be out at OTAs. So we'll have a recap of that on Tuesday. So that's our docket for next week. Will Golston tomorrow. No podcast on Monday. We'll still do a roll call on Tuesday. And we'll have a recap of the OTA practice on Tuesday, and then shows on Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah, there you go. So much stuff going on. And we're not even done with this podcast yet either, but a ton of great information. You mentioned Logan Hall, and I'm excited to see what he can do in training camp. But again, when your top 2 picks of the draft are a defensive lineman and an offensive lineman, you're not going to see exactly too much from them. But obviously, Will Golston will have a lot of great insight about what's going on there. Thank you, Pagan Troll. He says, love this podcast. Really informative. Thank you, Scott and Matt. Yeah, we try to be as informative as we can, give you all the information that we can relay from what we saw on the field, and, and give it to you guys here on the show, Pewter Report podcast, Pewter Report TV. Emily says, if there's anyone that needs to prove themselves all over again, it's Darden. Yeah. This is a make or break camp for him, in my opinion. If he doesn't step it up, I see him on the field.
Yeah, don't see him on the field. And
gotcha.
Totally agree with that. Yep. and it's interesting today because
let's talk about the receivers.
Yeah. So Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask didn't throw any interceptions today. So that's a positive step, because the very first practice of OTAs, the one we were able to see, Blaine had 2 interceptions, Trask had 1. And no picks today from either quarterback. They both ended with a touchdown pass. It was a great ending for both quarterbacks. We'll let you talk about that in a second. Probably one of the more disappointing plays was one of the rare deep shots that we saw was from Blaine Gabbert. And Jaelon Darden actually blew right by Jamel Dean.
Yeah.
And I didn't see the beginning of the route, but I saw the separation. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And I don't know if Darden ran the precise route or if it was just an overthrow by Blaine, but it was a missed connection. Blaine overthrew him by about 2 or 3 yards. And I'm not sure if it was the quarterback just misfiring. I want to give the benefit of the doubt to Blaine for obvious reasons, but I'm not saying he's perfect either. But Jaelon Darden, he blew by probably the fastest cornerback. Although, you know what, we need to see a race, don't we, Matt? From Jamel Dean and Zyon McCollum to settle this once and for all. Who's the fastest cornerback on this team?
I'm glad you brought that up too, because a couple of Bucs players had a race, and this had the offensive side of the ball too, where they were stretching and everything. It was a quick, okay, who could run to the corner of the end zone first? And it was maybe 10 yards. It wasn't like a on your mark, get set, go type of thing. But Cyril Grayson Jr. actually won that. And then he was celebrating after doing the plane. The Jets used to do this when they'd score a touchdown when they made it to the AFC Championship game. And he was going like this, and he was celebrating, getting hyped up and everything. So that was cool to see. But again, getting back to Jaelon Darden, if he's starting to build up his his game where he's getting that separation, as you just mentioned, and he's becoming a little bit more of a deep ball threat. Again, let's take it with a grain of salt. It's OTAs. But it's one thing when he did it against D. Delaney last week. And it's like, all right, that's cool. He's taking a leg up. He's doing it a little bit better. But now he just did it against the Bucs' number 2 cornerback. And again, we don't know if it was an overthrow by Blaine Gabbert, if Darden did something wrong on the route. But even if he ran the wrong route, he still smoked Jamel Dean on the play. So I don't care whose mistake that really was.
Right. It was good to see him get that separation. Yeah, no doubt about it.
100%. So I think Darden, again, the Bucs have talked about this a ton, stacking wins in games during the season.
Yeah.
Darden needs to stack these practices. He needs to stack the big plays. All right. And I also want to give him credit too, because there was another kind of freak play where he was to the outside. I think the Bucs were in zone. So Dean was watching him and you had Mike Edwards over the top too.
Mm-hmm.
And the quarterback, I can't recall if it was, I think it was Trask, but I'm not sure if it was Trask or Gabbert. And they tried to fit into a tight window. And Mike Edwards could have clotheslined Jamel Dean. I believe he kind of hit him right in the chest. And Darden wasn't able to make the catch. It was not on Darden at all. It was extremely tough play. Yeah. But Darden popped right back up. It was probably as physical as you're going to see in an OTA type of thing. Yeah. But he took the clothesline and just popped right back up and was good to go. So shout out to Jaelon Darden for that too. And another wide receiver, I mentioned him earlier, Scotty Miller, I think, was probably the best receiver on the field, in my opinion. He was making catches to the sideline. Yeah. He burned Zyon McCollum on a play where he started on the outside and kind of moved in, not all the way across the middle, but moved back towards the middle, towards the numbers, I should say, and made a catch there. He's looking more and more like the Scotty Miller from 2 years ago, now that he's healthy. And that's something that Todd Bowles talked about, where he said, Scotty looks good. He's doing everything that they asked of him. He's doing the right things. It's really just, and I think he said, knock on wood, just needs to stay healthy. He just needs to stay healthy. But it looks like Scotty Miller is regaining that form, and I thought he was the best wide receiver on the field for the Bucs today.
Great point. Great observation. I agree with you wholeheartedly. We should note that there was no Mike Evans out there today. It's OTAs. It's voluntary. He's a veteran. When these veterans stay away, right? When Carlton Davis, Levante David's obviously out, so is Chris Godwin, right? We did see, that would be funny. Tom Brady.
That'd be great.
I'm putting my money on Brady. He's just too much of a competitor, Plus, he would probably trip Vita or something like that too, stake his leg out and just do whatever it takes to win, because that's who Tom Brady is. But when these guys stay away and you're without the top 3 receivers in Tampa right now, no Mike Evans. Russell Gage was actually out there at practice, but he's nursing some sort of an injury, so they held him out. Nothing too major. Chris Godwin's out. So, great opportunity for Scotty Miller, Tyler Jonsen, Jaelon Darden, all these guys to really step up. Matter of fact, we had a little bit of an overthrow when the Buccaneers were doing some 2-minute, actually last-second plays in the red zone where you need a touchdown to win. And Blaine was a little too hot with one of the passes, and I don't know if it was high or if it was Tyler Jonsen just didn't make enough of an effort to grab it. Again, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Blaine Gabbert for obvious reasons, Blaine train. But they came right back to the exact same play on the next one, and it was a beautiful pass from Gabbert, a great catch from Tyler Jonsen for the touchdown right at the goal line. It was probably like a 20-yard throw. So that was good to see. Blaine ended on a high note, and then Kyle Trask comes in.
Well, I was going to say, who was guarding Tyler Jonsen on that play? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
It was Antoine Winfield Jr.
Oh, that's right. Yes, it was. It was the Pro Bowler. Yeah. So
and you said it before. Go for crime.
Go for crime. No doubt about it. So Kyle Trask, to his credit, really answered right back. Now, his throw was probably even more impressive. It went between 2 or 3 defenders right to Travis Jonsen, about a yard or 2 deep in the end zone. And so for a guy that's doesn't have that rifleman type of arm, and Blaine Gabbert does have a pretty strong arm, right? He can put some zip on the ball. When I see Kyle Trask, and I had people in the front office tell me this, when they drafted him, they kind of thought like Brad Johnson. That was the guy. And he looks like Brad Johnson out there. Brad Johnson was not a guy that had the most crazy zip on the ball, but he was accurate and he had good touch on the ball. But this was a laser. He lasered this one in from about 15, 20 yards. And it was a nice pass. And that was the last play of practice. Couldn't have ended better for Kyle Trask.
Again, going out on a highlight play in practice. Last week, it was the deep ball to Darden that Kyle Trask threw. Yep. This week, it was to Travis Jonsen. And shout out to Travis Jonsen, because there have been Pewter people in the chats being like, don't forget about Travis Jonsen. Yeah. Don't forget about Travis Jonsen. He made a great catch there. Again, in a tight window. Kyle Trask threw about 2 or 3 balls that were caught in tight windows. And they weren't passes where it was like, oh, what are you doing, man? Like, don't throw that ball into traffic. It was
KJ Hallen had one of those.
Yes. Yeah. Hallen was up and down. He had a couple drops, but he did catch one of those tight window throws from Kyle Trask there. So I thought he did a great job of assessing when to take that risk with the tight window throw, and he threw it right on the money. And speaking of money, if you're going to manage your money, the best place to go to that is Amuni Financial.
At Amuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Dude, congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you. And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Amuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Dude. Got to get to Colorado.
We got to get to Raleigh.
We do. And whether it's Colorado or whether it's wherever you want to vacation when you're retired in your golden years, you have to save up money for it, right? Because, I mean, just with inflation right now, everything's expensive. Traveling's expensive. And the people that you want managing your money and helping you plan ahead to stay ahead are the folks at Amuni Financial. Folks, the great thing about the Pewter Report podcast advertising partners that we have, these are products, services, businesses that we use and do business with. I have the vast majority of my financial investments with David and Mark over at Amuni Financial. They're local, but they can also help you from across the country. With 40 years of experience, let Amuni Financial help you plan ahead and stay ahead. Do what I did. Give them a call when it comes to managing your legacy, when it comes to brokerage and advisory services, when you want help to build your retirement account, for college savings accounts, and all the type of insurance that you need. Amuni Financial is the place that you got to turn to. Visit them on the web at amuni.com or give them a call at 1-800-868-6864 and tell them the Pewter Report sent you.
Yes, please do. And Scott, I think to really wrap everything up. Oh, one more thing that we have not talked about yet, but it was in the OTA minicamp report, was the kicking game. And we've seen a lot of Jose Borregales, the Aurora Borregales, as I like to call it.
JC's guy.
Yeah.
He thinks JC Allen thinks that Jose Borregales is going to beat out Ryan Suckup for the kicking
JC might need a new guy come training camp time or the start of the regular season, because the Aurora Borregales was given 3 opportunities today. Granted, they were situations where there's under 10 seconds on the clock. You got to run everyone onto the field, get it going, no timeouts or anything like that. And his first 2 kicks didn't even come close. The first one, it was like a knuckleball that was got a little high, but just all the way to the right. The next one was even more way right. And his third one, he did hit. It was a little more lackadaisical, laissez-faire, not the rush, not everyone running onto the field. But he had 2 opportunities, and it's one thing if you miss, but he missed really badly. Meanwhile, Ryan Suckup hasn't even kicked at all in OTA. We were like, oh, there's Ryan Suckup. He's literally on the third field, stretching,
2 fields away.
And I was like, does this look like a man that is concerned about losing his job? I think Borregales, again, it's one practice. I don't think you're going to get cut just because of that. But I don't really think Ryan Suckup is in jeopardy of losing his job as the Bucs starting kicker. Yeah. And Borregales isn't in a bad spot either, because he'll probably just get on the practice squad and still,
And the thing is
solid.
Matt,
there.
these weren't like 45, 50-yard kicks. These were like, it's hard to see because it was at the opposite end of the field, but I'm guessing 35 yards. I think it was probably that. The reason why Ryan Succop's on this team is because inside the 40, he's pretty money. He does not have a big leg anymore. He can't really make kicks over 40 yards. The thing is, though, is with Tom Brady, you're not going to have drives typically stall around, the 40, 45-yard line where you're going to have one of those long-distance kicks. If you're going to have a drive stall, it's going to be inside the red zone, and that's where Ryan Succop has been dependable. But, yeah, great observation by you when it comes to the kicking game. I guess the last thing we'll kind of mention, too, is we'll get to Cliff's pictures again. Cliff Welch, happy 39th birthday.
Happy birthday,
again.
Cliff.
He's the guy in the middle. That's Brian Ford from the Buccaneers, opposite me, giving Cliff Welch his 30 jersey for celebrating 30 years of covering the Buccaneers and shooting great photos that we use here on the Pewter Report podcast on Pewter Report. So one of the other pictures Cliff gave us before he had to run out for his birthday party was this one right here. Logan Ryan. We wanted to find out where he's practicing, right? He's been practicing with the safeties exclusively, at least the two practices we've seen. That's Antoine Winfield Jr. in the middle, Mike Edwards, and then obviously Logan Ryan. But without Sean Murphy-Bunting there today, we did see him play some in the slot. And is it a 3 safety look? Is it a situation where because SMB wasn't there, he was the next guy in at nickel corner? We really don't know. I didn't see Ross Cockrell out there today, so maybe it's just a situation where he filled in. But something we'll keep an eye on when it comes to Logan Ryan. And then probably, I guess, the last thing we're going to talk about is the offensive line a little bit. Sorry, that picture is not sized right, but just a really quick look at Shaq Mason at 6'1". That's Darius Hutcherson right there in the middle. He's coming off of injured reserve. He's, I think, probably 6'3". And then you got a guy 6'6", 6'7", and Fred Jonsen there. It really makes Shaq Mason look small. Mason, it plays big though. He's
it's insane. Like the small guy is the clear cut
better
lock as a starter.
Player.
Yeah, at right guard, and the other guy's just trying to make the team as a backup offensive tackle. So NFL players, they're built in all different sizes.
No doubt. And no Ryan Jensen today. So what that did was that gave a whole bunch of reps to Robert Hainsey, right at center? No, not so fast. Well, Robert Hainsey was playing left guard exclusively. And the center today was with the starters was Nick Leverett, the versatile backup. And then the backup center was John Bolton. Yeah, wasn't even Robert Hainsey. They're really giving Robert Hainsey every opportunity to win that starting left guard job. With Aaron Stinney still getting the starter reps right now. He's the veteran, most experienced guy. Makes sense. Luke Hideki gets in there as well. But it's really those 3 guys out there today. So we'll get our next look at these guys on the field next Tuesday. So make sure that you enjoy your holiday weekend. Again, no Pewter Report podcast on Monday. We will have plenty of coverage over this weekend. We're writing stories galore. We'll have a Monday mailbag as well on pewterreport.com. So when you're at the beach or at the barbecue, whatever, make sure that you're checking pewterreport.com on your phone. We're going to have news all weekend long, plus a new Pewter Report roundtable. And then, of course, tomorrow, don't miss Will Golston on the podcast or special guest. We'll have plenty of insight from Will at 4 o'clock Eastern time. So make sure that you watch us live.
Yeah, so excited for that. It's going to be awesome getting to talk to Will, who's obviously, again, one of the longest tenured Bucs, and is going to have a ton of great information. He's always great to talk to in press conferences, and Scott, as you said, getting a lot of great quotes from him, and he's been awesome ever since he's been with the Bucs, especially since they've been winning too. So it's going to be a fun time. So join us again tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So thank you everyone for watching the Pewter Report podcast. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera, and we will see you again tomorrow for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast featuring Will Golston. Be there, 4 o'clock. Out.